A lot of information just came out about Madden 26. I want to talk about some of the biggest things here. I'm pulling some of these from this tweet, along with some that I've noticed as I've went through the Madden 26 gameplay deep dive blog. Now, in this bad boy, let's just jump into it, okay? First thing, this is at the very bottom of the entire blog. I don't know why it's so dang low, but take a look at this. The full route tree is available by default in passing hot routes. What this means is that they're taking what they did in college football and they're adding it into Madden 26, where we no longer have to have Hot Route Master. I am a massive, I mean massive advocate of this. So notice here, we're on offense. We have Jared Goff, and I want to put Amon-Ra St. Brown on a zig route. We cannot do this. I do not have D-pad hot routes. I just have none of them. Okay. And in fact, I'm not going to have them with anybody because Jared Goff does not have Power Master, and none of my receivers or my running back has an ability that allows you to get extra hot routes. Now, every position will have every available hot route that position has. Okay. Example being a slot wide receiver having a zig route, or your halfback having like a wheel. Okay. This is genuinely a massive deal that'll make a lot more formations usable, a lot more quarterbacks usable. This is really good for regs, good for CFM, and honestly, I just think it's a great quality of life thing for everybody because as the year goes on, because of Hot Rod Master stuff like that, if you're a regs guy, MUT and regs just become further and further apart of like what they actually are because you just don't have access to hot routes. And if you're playing with different hot routes, you're playing, it changes an offense a ton and it changes defense a ton. Now let's move on to a feature they call route commit. My understanding of route commit so far is essentially it's like shading, but on steroids. So let's just read what it says. In man coverage, leverage is of the utmost importance. The new route commit feature will reward you for learning your opponent's tendencies. Route commit is different from shading in that it's a high risk guess with big rewards if you're correct. So essentially, the idea of this is that if I'm running a bunch of corner routes and you're running man coverage, if you route commit to the outside, you will, in theory, bag this 99% of the time. That is what route commit is. And if you are wrong, you should, in theory, get cooked 99% of the time. Now, this is purely theory. I don't know how it's going to work. I am honestly skeptical about route commit being a high impact thing. I'm skeptical about route commit working correctly. I think there's a chance that it's overpowered. I also think there's a chance that it's really, really bad. The area that it matters, though, is what I just said, where when you route commit correctly on a player, he gets bagged. And when you are wrong, he gets absolutely, or he gets wide open. Your defender gets absolutely cooked. That's how that should be. And it's going to be an individual adjustment. So it's going to be wire triangle. And then we're going to, it's actually, they actually wrote it wrong here. It's wire triangle and then wire triangle again to bring up the individual adjustments. We can show this here actually if I just go and we'll switch sides really fast. We can show what this should look like. So let's go flip sides, snap this ball, throw it away. This is, they did write this wrong, right? This should be wire triangle, or is it A? One side, we'll see. We'll go here. Random play doesn't matter. Okay, wire triangle. Yeah, it's wire triangle, and then you could select or wire triangle wire triangle A. Why is this tripping? It's Y triangle A, and then you can individually coverage. Y triangle A, and then you can individually cover. I don't know why, though, it's kind of showing a little bit weird. So you see this area down the bottom right where it shows individual coverage? That's where it should pop up. I don't know why it's actually showing, like it's not, the menu isn't working right now in the game. Like it's actually bugged. I wonder if it's just because we're in practice mode for a second, or because we're going up against a jet sweep. Y triangle A, and it's not allowing me to, yeah, see how I can shade these guys different ways? So I could like back off, I could shade right, I could shade left. I could back off. I could press this guy. See me moving this guy on the right around a little bit. The menu's just bugging out a little bit. This right here should show me different receivers I can select or different corners I can select. So we got wire triangle, A or X, and then you're going to select the defensive back. We have a visual bug right now. It's kind of frustrating. And then you can shade that defensive back, or in this case, you'll be able to route commit him in different directions. So a little bit interesting, but we'll kind of see what that ends up looking like in real time with it. Kind of a cool thing. They said here, we'll type in 130 right here. They added in 130 new tutorials, which is kind of crazy. Like, the tutorials in the game I feel like were always pretty lacking, and they've modernized the skills trainer. Essentially, what they did, I even talked to the devs about this when I was in Orlando about a month ago, is that they actually went through like every gameplay mechanic that they have, and they almost made a tutorial for like all of them. And there's a pretty good thing. So every question or theory you've ever had about on-field button presses can be answered, and the new user-friendly menu allows you to filter through all this content to immediately see tutorials for mechanics that are new or changed in Madden 26, so veterans can return to form in record time. I actually think that's a big deal. You see the different categories here that it's covered. I think that's good. This one gets talked about a ton on Twitter. Superstar abilities, aka passive abilities, that impact outcomes will no longer have any built-in guarantees to them, which is another change that players have been requesting. So instead of guaranteed or nearly guaranteed outcomes, you'll instead see increased chances close to 50% when the specific conditions of each ability are met. Here is a list of superstar abilities that have been changed, and it just gives a list of them. I I'll be so real with you. I don't even know what this totally means, and I think so. The easy one is KOs. Okay, that's the easy one. That's the low hanging fruit of what this means. Of like, yes, KOs right now are very consistent. This is gonna remove that consistency. Okay, I think that's pretty obvious, or that's pretty easy to understand. Right now, they will always KO you in this certain situation, or for the most part, they will. For the most part. Now it's like a 50-50 shot, I guess. That being said, something like Edge Threat Elite, that does not work every single play. So I don't know what that means in terms of a built-in guarantee. I don't know what the built-in guarantee is for Edge Threat Elite. For Tank, it always breaks the first hit stick tackle, right? For Edge Threat Elite, you don't always get an insta-shed. So I don't know. Right, so there's like Edge Protector. Uh, what's the guarantee? Like, I don't know. Nasty Streak, the guarantee is like you're gonna pancake a defensive back. That's fair. So I get that. Polar Elite, I actually have no idea what that even does. Like, Polar Elite just gives you increased and faster run blocking. Like he pulls faster and he's gonna like block better. But it's not like I don't know. The KOs are like easy to understand. Everything else, like a lot of the other ones, I'm like, I don't 100% get. And honestly, I don't. Some of these I don't love it, right? Like if the part of the point of like, I don't know, like Slotomatic is like a slot wide receiver who runs his routes are very sharp and cooks, right? He's gonna cook man coverage for the most part. Slotomatic should be pretty consistent in my opinion, because this should be added to a receiver. Like we'll throw like Wes Welker out there, or Amon-Ra St. Brown, who pretty consistently, not 50-50, like 90-ish% of the time runs a route way better than anybody else would run that route, right? And so I don't know. With that being said, like some of it I feel like it's like hearsay, because like if you look at something like Platinum Extender in college football also has the same things where it's not built-in guarantees. Although Platinum Extender, you're probably not sacking him on the first time. And so what it actually looks like in the game, I don't know. Some of it just doesn't really make sense to me, because like Edge Elite, I don't know what that guarantee is. I don't even care to talk about a ton if it's good or bad for the game. I don't care. It's just I don't know. I don't totally get it. I really don't. All right, here's a dope one. We now have what's called the untarget defender blocking mechanic. Okay, this, in my opinion, is going to be very, very interesting. I think that's the situation that I think this is so relevant is is on defense when you're in, or I'm sorry, on offense where you're going up against one of those overload blitzes. So something like double mug, something like 3-4 odd. A lot of times what people try to do is manipulate the offensive line. To show a little bit of an example of this, we're gonna go on defense right here, and then on offense, we'll just go into something like this. Why not? And what they'll try to do is they'll try to be on the safety and like try to manipulate the offensive line, pretend like they're blitzing, okay? The reason this is so good in the game is because the offensive line has to respect you as a potential blitzer, right? Has to respect Kirby Joseph in this case as a potential blitzer, leaving someone else to come free, and then my user bails into coverage. If you use the untarget defender feature, in theory, this should say, hey, Kirby Joseph, don't worry about him. Block everybody else on the line. Now, what does that leave open? Well, it leaves open the potential for a user rush from Kirby Joseph. Well, if they do that, then think about how many they're blitzing to user rush, right? You should be able to make a hot read, right? You have to attack. That is a strategy they could do on defense. That's football. Like, that's fine. For them to do this and user rush, they're either sending everybody, and that means you just have to identify the open guy and make a quick read, which there should be an open guy if you're calling good plays. You could also motion out a halfback or go 5 wide rather to help with alignment issues. or to cause alignment issues. Or the other thing is that they could imagine this, and I'm curious what happens in this situation. Let's do this, and imagine they untarget defender on Kirby Joseph. They say don't block him. But now I zone out everybody and I user rush. I hope the offensive line does a good job of blocking in this situation and picking up that untarget defender. Because what I'm worried about is that they snap it and we have untarget defender on, and I just come totally free because we have nice. We have untarget defender on that guy, and that would be a big loophole. With that being said, if this mechanic works correctly, I think it's gonna be a really nice counter to some of the most frustrating blitzes in the game, like double mug, like 3-4 odd, pinch bug 0, anything like that where they're just stacking the line of scrimmage and just kind of running a lot of times cover 0. This will be a great counter. A small one, but one I think is worth mentioning because it could be really cool for regs or for MUT. We've removed certain restrictions on depth charts so that you can have Travis Hunter starting at both wide receiver and cornerback if you choose, along with any other wide receiver or cornerback. So this could be cool because someone like will throw who would be like an absolute kind of dog in the game in this situation? Someone like Tyreek Hill, right? We'll just use him as an example, or Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams at 99 speed, being 6'2", could actually be a pretty good deep zone corner for you. And so if you're in franchise or regs or MUT, and the situation arises, right? We have this an absolute stud of an athlete. You can play them both ways now, which I think is cool. This was a tactic that was used in College Football 25 a lot last year, actually, with Isaiah Bond on Texas, where they would put Isaiah Bond at defensive back because he's so fast and he'd be able to match up really well, right? Because think about it. If you're going up against the Dolphins with Tyreek Hill, Jameson Williams on the field would actually be a pretty useful thing potentially. And especially with the way the game works, right? In real life, Jameson Williams would be a bad corner. In the game, though, he'd probably be a decent corner. Like, genuinely, he probably would be. Maybe not the best, and probably lacking in some areas, but speed is king usually in the game. So just something to keep in mind, and I thought was kind of cool that I actually missed the first time I read through this. Some they killed it last year, and then they killed it with the update in the middle of last year, and I think they're going to kill it again this year just from my time playing the game. We'll have nearly 1,000 new plays for the launch of Madden NFL 26, which is twice the amount of new plays we added in Madden 26. Our focus for playbooks in 26 is on the following: motions and shifts, stunts and twists, exotic defensive pressure, and new coach adjustments. We've seen they've added in some double motion stuff. They've added in stuff that's usable. And we can now assume in good faith that they've added more of this because last year they added in a lot of good stuff that was just brand new, that was objectively good. And so I have faith that this year they've done more of the same. I think playbooks will be pretty cool. On defense, they even touch on this a little bit where they're adding in stunts and twists. I believe there's some new defensive play calls as well. We've also seen exotic blitz pressures. Yeah, a lot of new blitzes, simulated pressures. Yada 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 yada. You get the idea. They've revamped them again, which I'm a big fan of. Moving on from that, your safeties can now play deep, 25 yards off the line, 32 yards off the line, 5 yards off the line, or close, 8 yards off the line. This is a big deal. With this, you are now not needing to go into the very meta like double safety go, where they get their safeties into the box and then audible. You can actually just, in your coach adjustments, set this. Or you can set them to play deeper if you want to. I think the absolute meta is going to be either tight or close, where you get those safeties down near the line of scrimmage. And unless they kind of buff play action to where, especially like cover 4 inside quarters, bite for a moment, that's going to be the absolute meta very early on in the game. I'm a huge fan of it, though, because it makes more defenses usable. Instead of everyone having to do it from dime 3-2, you can now do this from anything in the pre-play call screen. That, to me, is a big deal. You can even adjust the midpoint of these with the options being left, right, strong, weak, to the field hash or to the boundary hash, which I think is cool. It's just more flexibility on defense. I'm a big advocate of that. So you probably know this is here. Wear and tear came from College Football 26. Essentially, it's just going to make your player take damage throughout the game. If you're someone who's spamming quarterback runs, spamming the run game, something like that, you can take some hits. And you will feel it in your players' ratings to a point where if you take too many and it gets too bad, your players can have some pretty bad rating penalties. Don't want that, obviously. How this plays out is entirely just how it's tuned. I don't even want to talk about or kind of speculate on it because this is one of those things with wear and tear. Tuning changes everything, right? If it's tuned to where wear and tear is no impact, who cares? It was tuned to the point where wear and tear is like happening on the first play of the game, and your quarterback's out for the game because of one hit that he takes on play one. Maybe a little extreme, right? It's all about tuning with this. I think it could be a cool addition, just needs to get tuned. I don't know if I love this being an ultimate team because this does kind of force you to have good backups, which if you're somebody who it just makes it more pay to play. And I don't love that, but kind of it's just what it is. Another noteworthy thing is that they added in new depth chart positions. They added in a gadget player, think Taysom Hill or Debo Samuel. They added in nose tackles, added in Sam, Mike, Will linebackers, edges. I'm not gonna talk a ton about this. I feel like it's been talked about a good amount, at least that I've seen already. And once you kind of see it, you get the idea of it. I don't. It's not. We don't need a deep dive on new depth chart positions. It's a good ad, but no deep dive needed. Another small note here is that they say we now have the ability to tune gameplay without the need for a client update. This will allow us to be more agile and respond to gameplay feedback faster. Gameplay tuning primarily deals with any type of success chance, reaction time, timing windows, etc., that can be safely modified during the season. If you don't know right now, the process of them updating the game is a patch. These patches are actually very labor intensive on EA's side. They have to go through like a bunch of checks, not only from EA, but also from Microsoft and Sony. So sometimes when there's like a long period where there's not a patch, sometimes like a patch or an update can actually get rejected, or they have to pass like certain things, and it can just be a pain for EA to handle. This gives me a lot of hope that different bugs, especially like major bugs that we see, like a few years back, we had like a flashing Dickerson where whenever someone played against Dickerson, the screen just flashed. Something like that. Or like the pump fake glitch from a few years ago that dumbed out the entire defense. It gives me faith that something like this can get tuned quicker. And it's good. It's a good quality of life thing. And it just shows that it's just good. Like, hey, EA, good job. You're making your tools better. That which gives us a better experience. Heck yeah. You get a thumbs up from the dog. With that being said, that's a quick breakdown of everything that I kind of noticed throughout this. I'm sure there's a few things that I miss here but I'm excited. Custom zones, yeah. You get to kind of change where zone depths are. I actually think custom zones will be pretty tough to use because it's pretty like button intensive. But that being said, boys, if you guys want to get better at the game, you know where to go. Civil.gg, link top of the description. Over 2,000 active members right now. Good place to be if you want to get better at John Madden football. That being said, see you guys all next video.